As you all enter the pleasantly shaded clearing ahead of you, a slow, deep voice calls out to you. Welcome to our glade. What can the trees of the forest assist you with today? You all watch as the green leafy trees around you begin to pull their trunks out of the dirt and step forward. Friendly faces become visible out of the knots and burls on their bark. What would you like to do? Hello, and welcome to Tuna's Tales. For this week's Pondering Monsters, we'll be covering Treants. These CR9 plant creatures are typically chaotic good and are known to fiercely protect their forests. I hope no one in your party is a firebug. So, if you think it's safe for your party to go a-walkin' in the woods one day, then why not stick around as we start seeing what this encounter is all about. This encounter starts off in a familiar fashion. The party is in a village or small town, and they get asked to help with a threat to the village's safety. See, the trees have been attacking the village recently. So far, the people have been able to drive the trees back, but it's getting more and more difficult to do so. The people in charge here are looking to the party to go investigate this whole thing and hopefully put a stop to it. If your party accepts this job, then they can set off into the woods to begin searching for these living trees. But upon finding them, they'll realize that things aren't as straightforward as they may have thought. This is because the Treants don't actually remember ever attacking the town. The townsfolk all saw it, it did happen, but the Treants aren't sure what the party's talking about here. Though a couple Treants have lost some branches recently or have some axe marks, and they have no memory of anything that may have caused either of those to happen. If the party gets more inquisitive with them, then the Treants will point them further into the forest where the old Druid is known to live, and they might be able to offer the party more answers to their questions. At least the Druid might be able to if they were still alive. And that's the encounter. A village is getting attacked by Treants for some reason. The party investigates this, and it's revealed that the Druid of the Woods, who might have been able to help the party, is dead. We have a little mystery and a little exploration, but this still leaves a lot of things unanswered, so let's start asking some questions. Jumping right into it, the immediate questions that I think of with this are, how hard is it to find the Treants and how many are there? Who is this old Druid and what killed them? And why are the Treants attacking the village and why don't they remember it? As usual, there might be more questions that we can ask, but these three should be enough to get us going on this. So, how hard is it to find the Treants and how many are there? Starting with the how many part here, as many as you want. I'd probably use 3 or 4 for the party that I'm currently running a game for, but any number will do. The party isn't meant to fight them, so having a little show of force to discourage that isn't a terrible idea here. The other part of this question, however, is similar to the old, how long does it take to travel to place X that we've answered before? Normally I like to say that it could be as long or as short as you want, and you can still do that, but for this one I'm going to suggest you keep it to a half hour of travel at most. Reasoning being that the trees need to be nearby enough that the village doesn't have a whole lot of time to prepare when an attack is about to happen. Additionally, plan to throw in some encounters along the way. You can use puzzles or skill checks to use up some of the party's resources before they get to the Treants, but Treants also have the Animate Trees ability. You can easily include some of them for the party to fight as they make their way into the forest, though I'd recommend using the stats for an awakened tree rather than the stats for the Treant like the ability suggests. If you use the ability as written, then it might be too much for your standard 5th level party, and we don't want them needing a long rest right away from this encounter. Who is this old Druid and what killed them? Let me answer this by telling you all a little story about some history of the land. This Druid was the shepherd of this forest. They made sure that things were peaceful and safe for the people living nearby, as well as helping to foster the ancient magics of the forest that the land is steeped in. They were the mediator between the land and the people in the old days. Naturally, a bargain of sorts was made to keep the village safe and prosperous for as long as the village upheld their end of the bargain. Eventually, though, time did what time does best, and the knowledge of the Druid eroded into obscurity. With them went the knowledge of the bargain, as the village stopped keeping up their end of the deal. The Druid continued their daily tasks in the forest and, in good faith, kept protecting the village with the hope that they would remember the bargain. But even a Druid can't live forever, and one day they simply died of old age. Now only the creatures of the forest remember them and the bargain that was made many, many years ago. Finally, why are the Treants attacking the village and why don't they remember it? This question should be pretty obvious after the last one. With the druid no longer protecting the village, the magic of the forest has decided to collect on what was owed from the village. The village stopped honoring the bargain due to knowledge of it falling into obscurity, and as a result, they didn't know they needed to. In response, the trees were called upon to begin trying to collect the debt that is owed. As for the Treants' lack of remembering this, they're being possessed. The land wants to collect on what is owed to it and is using the Treants to make it happen, with no intention of stopping until it's successful. And that's it for questions. There's totally not a glaringly obvious one that was hinted at any point that I just glossed over. I guess there's nothing left now but to look at tying this encounter together. Getting all these ideas tied together isn't too tough here. All you need is a village or small town that's very near to a forest. Once you have that, you can get the party the quest hook in a couple different ways. Maybe they come across a quest board asking for help. They could overhear some villagers talking about the attacks the night before, or if you have any trained military type characters, then you could say that their keen eyes notice that this village looks like it's preparing for a siege of some sort. As you're walking through the market, you overhear a couple of ladies talking as they pick out produce. Well, I heard that more people are looking into moving up north. The Stonefoot said they aren't sure if the village can withstand many more attacks. Things just aren't as safe as they used to be. I just wish we knew why the trees were suddenly doing this. Doing one or more of those should trigger your players to get curious and start asking questions. As they start asking around, the villagers all basically know the same thing. The trees came to life and attacked the town. Additionally, this has been going on for a few days to a week or so now, and people aren't too sure how much longer they can keep defending this place. It can be helpful here to have a single NPC, like a head guard or a tavern keeper, that can speak up and potentially offer some reward to the party for going into the woods and figuring out why this is happening. If the party asks why someone from the village hasn't done that already, then the NPC can say that everyone is too busy trying to repair and fortify the village and that there aren't enough people to send in. From here, if we assume that the party makes their way into the woods, we can start challenging them. We can use things like the trees begin shifting around, making it hard for the party to keep track of where they came from, or any animals they encounter are immediately hostile towards them. Whenever you feel it's appropriate, you can bust out a combat with some awakened trees to soften the party up a little bit. Maybe the trees even pursue them and try to push them further into the forest. After some time traveling in the woods, hopefully with the appropriate skill checks, the party can find themselves in a shaded glade where they will be greeted by the Treants themselves. As they approach the party, they'll act friendly towards them and not hostile at all. The party can have a little bit of roleplay with them to see what's going on and potentially get some interesting information.
We have no memory of attacking anything recently, though the forest has been restless as of late, and it seems young Rootball over there has recently lost some branches.
They have no memory of attacking the village, though one or two of them seem to have taken some damage recently. However, they're not quite sure from what. And they can also tell the party that the forest has been restless as of late. Additionally, they know of one person living in the woods that might be able to help the party out. This is, of course, the Old Druid. You can have the Treants answer anything else the party asks of them that you think they'd know, but otherwise they should direct the party to the Old Druid who lives further in. If the party asks any of the Treants about this druid, they will tell the party that not much is known about them. They're potentially older than any of the Treants here, depending on what species you pick for the druid, and the Treants haven't seen the druid in a long time. But that's all just the first part of this encounter. I plan on covering the druid, the magic of the land, the previously mentioned book glossed over, bargain, and the overall resolution to this little quest in my next video. For now though, let's take a look at what we can do to make this encounter harder. Since the bulk of this encounter is intended to be roleplay, there isn't much we can do to scale the difficulty that way. Though if you used combat on the way into the forest, you could beef up the awakened trees, or just follow the Treants' animate trees ability like it originally states. Other than that though, you could throw more obstacles at the party as they make their way into the forest. More and or harder skill checks to get them lost, additional combats with hostile beasts, or some traps set by the Treants or the forest itself are all good places to start here. You could even include some tricky fae that harass the party as they try to move deeper into the forest. Maybe the fae keeps trying to steal some non-essential items from the party. Make your party feel like they're in danger just for stepping foot into the woods, and you're sure to have an entertaining session. I personally find the concept of moving through some haunted woods only to stumble into a peaceful and welcoming glade a fun juxtaposition. And there you have the first half to an encounter with Treants. Some final pitfalls that I want to call out here are that combat could go very poorly for a lower level party just based on the pure power difference between the Treants and a 5th level party of 5. As for higher level parties, they might be able to defeat the Treants, but the Treants aren't the problem here, nor are they the ones at fault. Remove them and the forest will just find another way to get what it's owed. Otherwise, like I said earlier, I'll be covering the second part of the encounter next week. So if you want to see what might be behind the magic of the forest and how your party can deal with it, then consider subscribing and doing that thing with the bell so you can get notified when it goes up. Additionally, if you liked this encounter, then leave a like. Or if you didn't like the video, have questions about something in this encounter, or just want to suggest a monster for me to cover in the future, then let me know in the comments below. With that though, thanks for letting me talk to you all, and until next time, keep pondering.